Hello, and welcome to the GATE Show. GATE stands for Groton Advocates for Tax Efficiency. I am Scott Ahmet, Chairman of GATE. I am also a representative on the RTM in Groton and District 6. GATE was formed when a dozen or so concerned citizens of Groton got together and decided to do something about their local government. GATE was formed as a political action committee to express our issues and to be a source of information for the Groton taxpayers. We felt the electorate needed to know better the policies, processes, and ongoings of how and why their tax dollars are being used. Our overall mission is to provide a more transparent and informative source to the Groton electorate so that they may make more informed choices of how their tax dollars are being spent. And now to Rosanne.
I would also like to welcome you to the GATE Show. The GATE Show came about in order to present the residents of Groton an alternative perspective to tax and spend. Today we welcome Jay Dempsey and Mike Boucher, candidates for the Groton City Council election on May 6, 2013. GATE members have prepared questions regarding the TV situation and its effect on the upcoming election and submitted them to Mike and Jay in advance. Scott?
Thank you, Jay and Mike, for coming on the show. Could you please tell us a little bit how you chose to run for the Groton City Council and what part of the $38 million TVC loss played in this decision?
First, I want to thank you, Scott and Rosanne, for having us on your show. And I wanted to give you a little background about myself.
Sure.
I grew up in Groton City, beginning in 1958. I played Little League Baseball here, and our team won the state championship for the city of Groton in 1968.
Congratulations.
So I'm still proud of that.
Right.
I moved about the area for several years and came back in 1999 and built our new home on Shinnecock Golf Course. I have an accounting degree from Eastern Connecticut University and a professional land surveyor's license in Connecticut. I've owned my land surveying firm for 20 years, and I practice right here in Groton City right now. And I am running for City Council to provide fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers. And I'm going to let Mike take it from here.
Similar to Jay's situation, I also grew up in the city of Groton on Morse Avenue, moved to Gales Ferry, and 21 years ago moved back to the city of Groton and restored an old Victorian home down by Eastern Point Beach.
Nice.
Interesting.
And I enjoy it very much in the city of Groton. I consider it a little treasure hidden away. Now, as far as the why we chose to run for city council, the loss of $38 million was for me very motivating in itself. But with every question that I asked, every answer received, and every fact that I was able to dig up, conversations with those in City Hall, it all became very clear that there was a huge problem with transparency, accountability, and a lack of an open government. It's not just that TVC lost money, it's how and why it lost the money, and a need for a new government process that just demanded I step forward.
Thank you. Can you give us a brief timeline of TVC events leading up to today?
I certainly can.
Thank you.
It's been my pet project for the last couple of months. Basically, in 1999, the focus was on a phone system within the city of Groton. That soon changed to cable. Pfizer was a big driving factor in that decision. By 2001, we had $6.9 million of bond money approved. By 2003, the franchise had started. By 2004, construction had started. And 2005, another $10 million. 2007, another $10 million was invested. And 2008, the final bond amount of $8.5 million was invested in TVC. By the end of 2008, things get interesting. As best as I can gather from the DPUC reports, and that's the Department of Public Utilities Controls, they were filed by TVC. The total miles of cables maxed out at 621 miles. There were a total of 41,000 possible homes. 32 homes were passed by TVC cable, but TVC only serviced 8,000 of those homes, a little bit more than 8,000. I think that TVC needed about 16,000 homes to make a profit, but even in the end of 2011, we only had 8,357 customers. By 2009, TVC just starts to unravel completely. TVC sells 3 shares of stock to GU for $524,000. The TVC board approves a line of credit from Chelsea Savings Bank for $5 million. In that year, Groton Utilities starts pumping money into TVC to keep it afloat. The very first year was $2.75 million in that year alone. That's where I start listing my executive sessions. From September of 2008 to November of 2012, There were 59 executive sessions, and it just went downhill from there.
Remarkable.
I'd like to go back to question one. I wanted to tell you how I got involved also in the TVC fiasco, actually. I got involved with the TVC issue when I found out we were selling a $20 million company for $150,000. The salary alone of the director of utilities is $193,000. This made no sense to me. How could all these smart, well-paid people in charge of Groton government get it so wrong? You know, so wrong that they felt it was necessary to hire a PR firm to tell their story. All they really had to do was tell the truth, provide accountability for the mismanagement of TVC, provide transparency, and make the necessary personnel changes to Groton Utilities Management and Utility Commission. They have done none of that. That's why I recently have been so critical of this administration.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Our first relative question. During our first gate show, Groton Town Mayor Summers made some strong statements regarding the TVC loss of $38 million. I'd like to show the audience a little clip of our first show.
The council, most of the people that are there, including the mayor, were there when this was all going on. And whether you say you knew or you didn't know, you should have known.
Exactly.
And
That's a great point.
yeah, if you didn't know, then you weren't
should've.
doing your job. Right. Come on, these people had to report to you. And the fact that the taxpayers and the ratepayers are going to be stuck with this bill, and I've heard unofficially it's actually even higher than 27
We've
million.
heard that as well.
Okay, continuing on, Mike and Jade, do you support a formal investigation of the TVC situation to find out who knew what and when?
I'm going to let Mike start off on that one.
Okay, Mike?
It's not just who knew what and when, but it's where did all the money go and how much was really lost. A forensic audit is needed to determine if there was a misuse of public funds or criminal activities. Paperwork has been sent to the state's attorney general and the chief state attorney by a group of citizens, which includes Jay and I, and there is a request for more information, and that's why Jay and I have filed many FOIs with the City Hall in hopes of finding more information that we've been denied access to.
I'd like to expand on that.
Sure.
As recent as yesterday, I attended a Groton Utilities Commission meeting, and there appeared to be about 15 people in the room. I would assume that was a typical attendance of a board meeting. They all appeared to be very smart business people, and I can't believe that not one of them spoke up in all these years. Maybe it's just complacency, maybe they were afraid for their jobs, I don't know. If elected to the council, I would initiate an anonymous way for employees to come forward to the council with items of waste and mismanagement. They would be protected under current whistleblower laws.
Thank you. I don't know which one of you wants to take this. When elected, what will you do to keep the public informed of problems in the city which have long-term financial impacts on the taxpayers?
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. This to me is so simple, and it's just so obvious, and I don't know why it didn't take place. You tell the truth, you tell it often. It's so simple, just be honest. How hard is that? The city is small, these people are my neighbors. Why would I not look out for them and care for them?
So true.
Absolutely. Transparency and honesty. Be straightforward with them. We must be honest and open with the public to gain their trust again in the city.
Thank you.
I like you guys' truth and honesty. That's really kind of what GATE kind of is all about, telling the people really what's going on. So the next question, Mayor Galbraith has stated that the TVC issues don't affect the town, which kind of leads to more of my area. So do you disagree with that? Why or why not? And how will you deal with this interaction between the city and town if you guys are elected?
Okay. First of all, I do not agree with that statement.
Okay.
Residents of the city pay taxes to the city and the town. Town of Groton sends us back a portion of that money for police and public works. Look at what is happening now during the budget process. Town council is now questioning our mayor and the financial operations of the city. They're disgusted with the lack of financial oversight of Groton Utilities, just as I am. Not to mention anyone that has Groton Utilities as an electric provider is also paying for that mismanagement. Don't be fooled. You cannot lose $38 million with no financial consequence. Taxpayers and their children will be paying that debt for 14 years.
Wow.
Great point.
And I'll add a little bit to that.
Sure.
When the city loses this much money, it creates added pressure on the town to provide services while the city pays off this huge debt. Electric rates have not dropped, while power cost, I believe, will affect ratepayers in the town, such as the subbase. The city looks as though it's financially irresponsible, and I can't help but wonder what Pfizer's and other large corporations think of the city and how this will affect Groton town tax base.
So Groton Utilities does provide power to the U.S. subbase, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and many large industrial bases within the city
Many
that
businesses.
are very important to the town.
So there could be a ripple effect there, what you're saying.
I think that people could be concerned.
Thank
Yes, definitely.
Previously, you were talking about, you had a whole list of bonds. Could you please explain the process in the city of Groton to bond money? What is a Freeman's meeting, and what changes would you propose to this process when you're elected?
You want to take that, Mike?
Freeman's meeting it's kind of a fancy term. I don't know why they throw in the Freemans. It sounds nice. Basically, it's a meeting of city electors, and it usually involves bond money for some city project or the city budget itself. The city comes up with a resolution, the meeting is posted, and then the meeting takes place. Usually there's very little discussion and very few voters that show up. The very last meeting we had, only 14 voters showed up, and that was for an almost $4 million bond request.
Remarkable.
So it is. So what I'd like to see change, and I know Jay's on board with me on this, I'd like to talk to the public, encourage people to attend, and I'd like to see a charter change to set a minimum number of votes to pass a resolution at these meetings, because 14 votes on $4 million is not enough.
No,
That's got to
absolutely not.
change.
Charter change sounds like a great idea for that.
I don't know the official number, but I think it's around 10,000 people reside in the city of Groton. So that's
Yeah, we're
that's
way
not
off.
enough,
14
right?
No.
people spending $4 million.
Right, so,
Yeah.
No, it's a huge
Right.
problem, and people need to take notice of it.
right, thank you, Mike. Any rebuttal?
I'm going to let Mike handle that
All
one.
right, all right. All right, next question. I think we may have covered some of this. How much debt is GU and the city of Groton liable for due to TVC, and how long is it going to take for us to pay that off?
Okay, I'd like to take that one, Mike, if that's all
Absolutely,
right.
Jay.
The public stated figure and published in the day paper is $38.8 million that was wasted. $27.5 million is bond debt, and that will take 14 years to pay off. $11.3 million is a written off accounts receivable due from TVC to Groton Utilities that we will never receive. That is nearly $40 million that we could have used for Thames Street, the Zaberski House, road paving, electric upgrades, and bringing economic development to our city. Our Republican team will work to bring business and jobs back to the city. Economic development in Groton City has been non-existent for many years.
Thank you.
You covered it, Jay. I might only add that we could have had the greatest youth center in all of southeastern Connecticut. It was something that would have been great for our youth, but we won't have that now.
Right.
The next question. Groton Utilities Chair Yatko has stated that the TVC debt will not cause their utility rates to rise. However, do you feel the rates could have gone down if TVC had not failed?
Mike?
I'll take that. And the last meeting I attended from Groton Utilities, that was on March 27th, 2013. They gave a report effective July 1st, 2012. Purchase power cost was reduced from $96.28 to $92.51 per megawatt hour, and will continue for the fiscal year according to the budget plan. This will improve cash flow from February operations by about $112,000, and year-to-date money in this account is $927,000. And that was last month's report. Obviously, we'd be over $1 million by now. So the question is, what's going to happen to this $1 million that they've saved in reduced rates that they're from their power purchase cost? And I don't know what's going to happen to the money, but I'm not seeing it in my bill. So rates could have dropped.
I'd like to expand on that,
Okay,
if I may. My answer to that question is Norwich Utilities recently lowered their electric rates by 14%.
Really?
Yes. We have not. Groton Utilities has not lowered their rates. We buy electricity from the same provider,
Right.
and we're both part of CMEC, which is an electric energy cooperative. part of their mission, mission statement for CMEC is to meet electric needs of their customers at the lowest possible cost. Groton Utilities cannot do that now because of the financial strain of the failed cable company. Don't misunderstand me. I wish the new owners of Thames Valley Communications the best possible future. I still have friends that work there,
Sure.
and I want them all to do well. My problem is only with our current city administration that hid the losses from the taxpayers and provided no accountability for their failure.
Thank you. Okay, next question. I'll throw it out there. Do you think if the city and Groton Utilities were more transparent over the past 12 years, I think it would be, Mike, there would have been a different fate for Groton Utilities? Maybe it would have played out a little differently?
I think it would have played out very differently. As I gave my timeline, I think everybody could see that by '09, things were starting to unravel. Now, the only reason TVC was able to continue is they were able to siphon off profits from Groton Utilities to keep the operation going. And there was no taxpayer oversight. So if that wasn't in place, TVC would have just rolled over and died in '09. Because there's no way that they could have come and asked for more bond money without telling us what was going on.
I have a question about the taxpayer oversight. Was there a representative on the TVC commission from the city council?
Well, the mayor basically is the chairperson of TVC and Groton Utilities, or
Right.
president, however you want to, chairman of the board. There has been a number of different terminologies used. So the mayor definitely knew. Whether councilors knew, they would have had to ask for information. They were never at any board meetings that I'm aware of. They could have
And of
attended
course,
meetings.
there's no minutes
don't
from
know.
executive sessions.
And there's no minutes from executive sessions. However, the information that I produced about selling stock to GU for it's about $164,000 a share, the $5 million loan they wanted from Chelsea Savings Bank. I mean, you could see there were problems. I don't know why the councilors weren't
More interested?
more interested in what was going on in the city.
We don't understand what happened because in our charter, the past charter and also the new charter states that the mayor is supposed to keep the council apprised of the financial conditions of the companies
Right.
that we own.
Duties of the mayor in the charter is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And for some reason or a number of years, it seems like that didn't happen.
So there wasn't an agenda item on the city council meeting of report of TVC, report of Groton Utilities?
No, I think it was just done in the TVC commission meetings and the Groton Utilities meetings.
Interesting. Okay, you have already mentioned FOI. It is our understanding that you both have been unsuccessful in obtaining FOI information from the city of Groton. Specifically, what has your experience been, and when you're elected, what would you do to make obtaining FOI information successful for residents?
Mike?
Well, I think the mayor started out well in the November meeting and in December and January. She was answering questions as best she could. I think it became obvious by where my questions started to go that I was getting towards some sensitive material. And that's when the answers started to stop, and I had to start going through an FOI process. Basically, she started treating my questions in January as FOIs. February would drag on without a lot of answers to questions. Finally, in March, I refiled everything under official FOIs. I've had some limited responses, but most of my questions I'm still waiting for answers.
Do you think, oh, sorry.
When was the initial announcement of the sale, though, in relation to what you were just talking about, timeline?
The initial announcement of the sale was in November, end of November.
November of 2012.
I think it was,
Right.
I think it was
Okay.
November 29th.
Okay.
Do you think there's
A
any
day that will reign in
connection?
infamy.
Do you think there's any connection between the slowing up of the information and the upcoming election?
Well, absolutely, of course, because if you have information that's going to be detrimental to your run for office, you don't want to release it. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but that's a conclusion that some people will come to.
Right.
And as far as what I would do about FOIs, and I know Jay will agree wholeheartedly, is that once again, it's a simple question and a simple answer. You run an open government, and people don't need to file FOIs.
I'd like to
Exactly.
expand on that. The mayor said that she had found out in January of 2011. Now we're talking about elections, okay? When she found out in January 2011, she kept that private until the May election in 2011. I just want to make that clear. Now on my FOIs, it's most recently it's been like pulling teeth. I was asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and I refused to do that because it would have tied my hands. I wouldn't have been able to come out to the residents and tell them what was
You
going
might
on.
want to explain to the audience what a non-disclosure statement is and why they have them do that. I don't know if you're going to say
They
that.
were still trying to, at that time, they're still trying to protect trade secrets, so-called trade secrets that actually turned out to be valueless because we sold the company for $150,000 basically. The other $400,000 went to a finder's fee for RBC Daniels, okay?
Right.
My latest FOI of March 12th is still unanswered. It was relating to the financial auditor's reports of TVC. I asked for no trade secrets. I wanted to know what the financial condition of the company was from 2008 to 2012 and whether or not it was actually a going concern at that time, whether or not it could actually pay its debts or exist as a company. And I was recently told that my FOI is now in the hands of the city attorney.
Interesting.
Okay, so getting back to TVC, or staying with TVC, should I say?
Yes.
Was it ever profitable, and does this affect the city's borrowing power? And third part of this question, if and when you are elected, what steps will you take to minimize this impact?
I'll take that question.
Mike?
From all the information that's available to me, TVC never made a profit.
Never.
Never.
Okay.
Never made a profit. Made some money, but not enough to pay its bills. It does affect our borrowing power because Moody's had dropped our rating from a AA2 to a AA3, and that has not changed even with the sale of TVC. The only thing that happened is that our outlook went from negative to stable, but we still have some other concerns, or they have other concerns with how the city's being operated still. The result of this rating is that the city will have to pay more not only on future bonds, but any bonds it tries to renegotiate. Once again, it's another hidden cost from the
Right.
TVC fiasco.
Yeah. Can I expand on
Absolutely.
that? Thames Valley Communications in its last year actually grossed $10 million, but it was still not profitable. The debt of $28 million in operating expenses were still too high for the amount of customers they had. Sales for the company were flat for 4 years. They couldn't gain enough market share. They had roughly 8,200 customers, I believe.
Yeah, it bounced around between like 86 down to 82 at the high point.
Thank you. Now this question is for both of you. When you are elected, what will you do to prevent issues like TVC from happening? And will you deal with more scrutiny towards Groton Utilities operations? How will you deal with more scrutiny towards Groton Utilities operations?
Well, I'm going to actually finish the last question a little bit
That's fine.
on the impact. Minimizing the impact will be difficult because the city needs to show that it's fiscally responsible and that it can keep and attract new business in the city. I think that's a very important step the city has to take, and it's going to be a tough one to take. We're in for some hard times over the next 14 years, very hard times.
I believe charter changes are needed to ensure the property and money of the taxpayers that is protected. If elected, I would encourage and strive for a balance of political parties on the Groton Utilities Commission. Quarterly reporting would be required directly to the City Council, so there's no room to say we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
The stakes are much too high now to leave it up to chance. We must provide transparency, accountability, fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers now and into the future. Please vote for Mike and I for our Republican team. We'll work to gain your trust and provide open and honest government.
Thank you. I think it's remarkable the amount of information that you have uncovered.
It's been hours upon hours.
I believe it.
It's been.
Right.
I actually celebrated Christmas on January 1st.
We only have a 30-minute
I was
show,
that
so
busy.
I'd like to get to the next question. Although those in charge say there was no cover-up of the TVC's $38 million loss, is that the way you guys see it?
I'm going to let Mike take that.
Okay. Well, I'll scratch my head on this one and go, let's see. More than 50 executive sessions, responses of trade secret and confidentiality when questions were asked, reports in the city's comprehensive annual financial report like Groton Utilities manages 3 types of services, water, electric, and cable television. All continue to perform beyond expectation and work to enhance its reputation.
Oh my God.
Waiting for FOIs to be answered. Well, I think I'd rather let the State Attorney General investigate and answer that one himself.
Thank you.
Jay?
Mike said it well.
You said it all. Oh, my list.
I can throw in
one of the reasons one of the stated reasons that the City of Groton chose the low offer for TVC was so that TVC could keep its 23 employees. Do we know if this happened?
I'll take that one, Mike.
Sure.
I believe initially CTP Investors kept 14 employees and then contracted out technical services and installs. It was troubling to me, though, that 2 of the former TVC executive session personnel were given new jobs at Groton Utilities, and the jobs were not advertised. In my opinion, that is against equal opportunity employment, and it shows favoritism.
I believe there was also some reporting that they were actually moved into vacant positions.
The positions were vacant for 2 to 4 years, I believe. And
Really?
yes. Yep.
That seems
So
odd.
I couldn't understand. I actually went to a Groton Utilities Commission meeting, and I asked, you know, even after taking on this $28 million in debt, now we're going to give 2 new jobs to people from TVC, costing the taxpayers another $200,000 a year.
Interesting. Let's see. Time for one more question, gentlemen. Do you feel the city mayor has too much unchecked power? And when elected, would you support a charter change? Which I think you've already discussed that, or other changes to rectify this situation?
Go ahead, Mike.
I think the last charter change did a lot in limiting the mayor's power position. What I think needs to happen now is that the council needs to be far more involved in the process of government. For so many to know what was going on, or not, for so many not to know what was going on for so long with TVC is appalling.
Right.
Albert Einstein once said, "The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing." I will never look on and do nothing.
Bravo.
Thanks, Mike. I support any charter changes that would provide more checks and balances and transparency to the residents and the ratepayers of Groton Utilities.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well, that is all we have time for today. We, the members of GATE, give our endorsement to Jay Dempsey and Mike Boucher for Groton City Council. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Rosanne. Thank you.
I'd like to thank our guests, Jay Dempsey, Mike Boucher, Frank from Comcast, our GATE members, and for you for watching. And remember to open the gate to transparency.